She was only a nurse. Then an armed man walked in and changed everything. The smell of antiseptic still hung in the corridor when the sound of heavy footsteps cut through the hospital's morning rhythm, sharp and wrong, like a crack in glass. The nurse felt it before she understood it, a pressure in her chest, a sudden stillness in the air. Then the shape of danger appeared at the end of the hallway, metal raised, eyes burning with fear and fury. In that instant, the hospital stopped being a place of healing and became a place where a single choice could tip the balance between terror and mercy, between loss and hope. If you believe that kindness can still change the world, even in its darkest moments, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support keeps stories like this alive, stories about second chances and the courage to choose compassion. She had come in early that day, as she always did, tying her hair back with practiced ease and slipping into scrubs that felt more like a second skin than clothing. To most people, she was invisible in the way nurses often are, moving quietly, fixing what was broken, carrying burdens that never made headlines. She knew the language of beeping monitors and whispered prayers, the weight of hands that clutched hers when fear rose at the bedside. She had learned to be steady when others shook. Yet nothing in her years of training had prepared her for the moment when fear walked in with a weapon and pointed it at the fragile line between life and death. The armed man moved with a desperate certainty, the kind born not from confidence but from having nowhere left to go. Patients froze. Doctors dropped to their knees. Time fractured into small, unbearable seconds. In that chaos, the nurse did not run. She did not scream. She felt her heart slam against her ribs, felt the urge to disappear like everyone else, but something deeper held her in place. It was the same instinct that had kept her at bedsides through long nights and hard losses, the belief that presence matters, that staying can sometimes save what fleeing cannot. She stepped forward slowly, not because she was fearless, but because fear had taught her what mattered. Her mind raced through faces she had cared for, the old man who squeezed her hand before surgery, the mother who begged her to promise everything would be okay, the child who smiled through pain because someone believed in him. Those memories grounded her. They reminded her that even now, even here, people needed her to be what she had always been, steady. The man's eyes flicked toward her, surprise cutting through his anger. He hadn't expected anyone to move toward him. In his world, people backed away. The nurse saw more than the weapon, she saw exhaustion etched into his face, the hollow look of someone who had been fighting too long and losing every battle. She did not speak words the way movies teach heroes to speak. She offered something rarer and riskier, her full attention. She let the silence stretch, let the hospital breathe again, one fragile breath at a time. Around them, the corridor seemed unreal, lights too bright, walls too close. Somewhere, a monitor beeped steadily, indifferent to the human storm unfolding. The nurse kept her hands visible, her posture open. She remembered how often fear softened when it was seen. She remembered that pain, when ignored, turns sharp. She did what nurses do best, she assessed, not the weapon, but the wound beneath it. Minutes passed like hours. The man's grip trembled. His anger faltered, replaced by something like confusion, then shame. The nurse felt the shift before anyone else did. It was subtle, a loosening, a quieting. She did not rush it. She understood that healing cannot be forced. It must be invited. When the tension finally broke, it did not shatter the way everyone feared. It dissolved. The weapon lowered. The man's shoulders sagged under a weight he could no longer carry alone. Security arrived, careful and calm, guided by the fragile peace the nurse had created simply by staying present. No one was hurt. No lives were lost. The hospital exhaled. In the aftermath, the corridor filled with the sounds of relief, sobs, whispered prayers, the soft shuffle of feet returning to work. The nurse felt her knees weaken now that the danger had passed. She leaned against the wall, hands shaking, tears blurring her vision. She was not a hero in the way stories often demand. She was human, exhausted, overwhelmed by how close everything had come to breaking. But she was also something else, proof that courage can be quiet, that compassion can disarm where force cannot. News spread quickly, but it twisted the truth in familiar ways. Headlines reduced the moment to shock and spectacle. They called her brave, extraordinary, a symbol. She listened from the sidelines, uncomfortable with praise that missed the point. What mattered to her was not recognition, it was the knowledge that she had chosen to see a person where others saw only a threat, and that choice had changed the ending. In the days that followed, the hospital returned to its routine, but something had shifted. Colleagues looked at her differently, not with awe, but with gratitude. Patients smiled a little wider. The nurse herself moved through her shifts with a new awareness, not of her own strength, but of how thin the line is between despair and hope, and how easily it can be crossed with a single act of kindness. She never forgot the man's face as he was led away, not as a villain, but as a reminder of how close any of us can come to the edge. She carried that lesson into every room she entered after that day. She listened more carefully. She lingered longer. She believed, even more fiercely, that people are not defined by their worst moments. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that empathy still matters, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video.